There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Trish. So my name is Deborah Howe. I'm a member of Locac, and I'm chair of this small committee. Trish Bartel, who is the chairperson for Locac, will also be sitting on this committee. Will be a member of this committee. And then Meg has agreed to be a member of this committee. We are open to having more people join. We definitely want public input here. So if you know someone who wants to commit to bringing us input to this committee, being a member means that you get to make a motion. It means you get to vote on motions. And so it's an important part of participation. I'm going to do a really quick, I'm going to say some things that you already know, but I want them in the record. Okay, so the name of this committee is Active Transportation. It is a subcommittee of the Traffic and Circulation Committee. And active transportation is defined as any self-propelled, human-powered mode of transportation, such as walking or bicycling. The purpose of our committee is to provide a forum for the community to discuss issues with respect to all forms of active transportation, pedestrian, cycling, etc. We want to identify projects and challenges within the Los Osos community. We want to provide feedback to the county regarding our priorities. We want to focus on safety for active transportation, and we want to explore funding options for projects. So that's our purpose. And then I'm also going to state some more things that are obvious. Los Osos is not a town of sidewalks, and it will never be a town of sidewalks. So that's a blessing. And it's also a curse, because we have to deal with our existing infrastructure to provide safe passage for people walking and for people cycling who may not be avid cyclists, who are comfortable being out in traffic. Someone who's just gotten an e-bike, a senior who's out for some exercise, they're not necessarily going to want to be on a street that's heavily trafficked. So we want to start considering what infrastructure, what streets, what grid we want to promote for this type of pedestrian travel, for recreational travel. And quite honestly, people I've talked to who do use their bikes for commuting often take the long way around if it means they can avoid being on a heavily trafficked street. And that's just the truth. So what I've seen so far in Los Osos is that the bike paths often are streets that are heavily traveled streets. I'm not a cyclist, but I'm hoping that we can get input from the cyclists to say, yes, this works, or no, there might be something better we can do, because that's the purpose of this committee. I don't think we're really going to do a roll call tonight because the committee is not completely formed. I've already introduced Trish Bartel, Meg Siphon. Am I pronouncing your last name correct?
Yes.
Meg Siphon has committed, and again, we're open to other people joining. I don't have any announcements, but do we have any public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, Jeff, what would you like to say?
Let me get myself set up here. Oh, there we go. Hopefully my video is working at this point. I'm really, really pleased we've got actually focused attention within Locac on active transportation. I believe probably the best focus for this group, and I know you've set out what your parameters are, but we just completed this community plan, and within it, there's a specification the county will prepare an active transportation plan for us, or with us, when I say for us, There's no timeline to it. I tried to get a timeline established with that, but there is none. But I think probably one of the best ways to approach this would be trying to get some energy behind with the county to promote and get that going forward. If we try to, I mean, we can do a couple different things. We can do piecemeal. There's a project here, a project there, and we'll have maybe some positive energy there. But I think somewhat holistically, we should be really trying to get that off the ground as a first, one of the first steps. And I say we, and I know I'm actively interested in this, but some of my other commitments don't allow me to continuously be part of it. And that's a hindrance to the group. And I understand that. So I'll just do it when I can. Let's see. And then I know we're looking at one of the things that I looked at on some of the projects I've tried to do in the past. There are so many prescriptive things that Public Works has with doing anything. Yeah, it would be a big benefit if you could get a Public Works person to maybe not be a member, but join in, and they can actually give us guidance of things they can do or things we need to do so they can do them. Because I think we'll end up going down some roads that we will find out are non-starters. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm really glad this is going.
Jeff, I appreciate you so much. You have already helped me tremendously at just getting this thing going. So I completely agree with you. We do need to work at getting this active transportation plan kick-started with the county. And I think the best way for us to do that is to come up with our own plan or the beginnings of a plan and send it their way. In terms of having Public Works attend, I reached out to every single person in Public Works, and I got a reply back that said, we're too busy to attend meetings like this one. However, we know that they do come and attend our Locac meetings. So once we get something formulated here at this level, we will be taking it to the general meeting of Locac, and there we can interact directly with the county and get some face time with them. And we'll have a lot more, I think we'll have they'll take us more seriously, let's put it that way, when we're coming from the general Locac meeting, when we have all of Locac standing behind us and with us. So
let's give it a
we
go.
have to have a plan. We must have a plan. We must have a vision of what we want for this community, because what I've seen so far is that the county is sort of coming in with, well, we'll do something over here, we'll do something over here, but it's not necessarily what's best for us. And I'm going to give you an example that Josh brought to my attention. And we can look at this in a little bit. In fact, I might just do a share screen, but we have a street in Los Osos that's a bicycle boulevard. Now that's a special designation. It means that the cyclists have the right of way on that street. It happens to be 10th Street. Now that's great. However, as Josh pointed out to me, 10th Street is a really hilly street, and it's not necessarily a street that everybody wants to ride their bike on. So it's kind of like, yeah, we gave you a bicycle boulevard, but we didn't give it to you in a very good place.
Gotcha. Yep.
So we need to have more community input about what we're getting from the county and make sure we're getting what we want, getting what we need. And that's going to be really part of the discussion tonight, I think, with this Baywood Elementary School project, which, by the way, Jeff, I would have never known about if you hadn't told me about this project. So, okay, any other comments that we need to, the public wants to bring in that's about something that's not on the agenda? Okay. And by the way, Dave and Bev, thanks for joining us. Okie dokie. Baywood Elementary School. I am going to do a share screen. I'm going to pull up a map just so that we can have our conversation based on, you know, the issue, frankly. So here we go. Everybody can see this, I hope. And is it clear enough?
Yeah.
I can expand. Okay, so thanks to Jeff, I discovered, or let me back up for a second. We can have the best ideas in the world, but if we don't have any funding, we're not going to get anything. So funding is the big limiting factor here. And the easiest way to get funding is through SLOCOG, the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. They provide funding for safe routes to school. And that's one of the most, that's a bucket of money that is the easiest one to tap into. If you go to Public Works or some of these others, it's very hard because we're competing with everybody else in the county, frankly. So here we have a project that was approved in 2018, and $170,000 was set aside for this project, and it is a sidewalk. So here's Baywood Elementary, and Baywood Elementary has a sidewalk on El Moro, on 9th Street, and on Santa Maria. So there's sidewalks on 3 sides of this elementary school. The $170,000 is a proposed sidewalk, curbs, and gutters to go from 9th Street to 8th Street. That's what it is. So I asked myself, well, what is the good of that? A one little block of sidewalk. When we have a elementary school that has a beautiful walking path, a dedicated class 1 shared path from 12th to El Moro that takes you all the way over to the middle school. I think we're all familiar with that path. It's well used by the community. But nothing for anybody coming down into this part of Baywood, whether you're a child walking to school or on a bicycle. So you could be a middle schooler, you could be an elementary school student, or interestingly enough, you could be a high school student, because the high school, Morro Bay High School bus picks up their kids at the elementary school. And they pick them up early in the morning. I think I have the time somewhere. They pick up at 6:30 in the morning and 7:42 in the morning, and then they drop off the high schoolers at 3:30, 3:25, and 4:20. So we have all these children, and they're walking. They're walking in the street. Now, they've put a bicycle path here on El Moro, but El Moro is a double yellow collector street. It's one of the most heavily trafficked streets in this Baywood area. It's a terrible street to walk on. I've walked it several times. Santa Maria is not a heavily trafficked street, and that is for a couple of reasons. Number one, because up here between 13th and 17th Street, it's dirt. Very few cars drive on that. A lot of people walk it, but very few cars will drive it because it's dirt and it's really deeply rutted. Then when you get down here, it's just a skinny road. It doesn't, it's just not well traveled. So my question is, doesn't it make a little more sense to put in some kind of walking path here? Kids coming off here, they could get over to Santa Maria, and then let's get some sort of designation for Santa Maria. And there are a couple of things that we can ask for. We can ask for a bicycle boulevard, which gives cyclists the right of way. And that's Josh, feel free to chime in here. Josh is teaching me these terms. Traffic calming, which slows traffic down. So there's bicycle boulevard. There's Matt Leal, who's with the county, who really will be our contact person there. He said we can have a local traffic only designation, which means that only people who live on that street are going to drive on that street. So again, it reduces the amount of traffic. So say from like 9th Street, obviously you're going to have traffic here, the bus and people dropping their kids off. But if you go from 9th Street down to 4th Street, you could have that be more of just local traffic. Or Josh also mentioned that in Berkeley, they did some things where they put out planters in the middle of intersections, small ones, like 3 feet, where cars would have to sort of go around it. Am I describing that correctly, Josh?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. And I think what you're naturally doing here is you are selecting streets that are, by the way, this is Josh. I'm a representative for District 2, appointed by Bruce Gibson for the Bicycle Advisory Committee, which will probably transition to a county or a slow cog active transportation committee. So Locac is already ahead of the curve here by creating this active transportation committee. But to get back to your comments here on Santa Maria, you almost have a naturally traffic calmed area on this road. As you pointed out, there isn't a continuous traffic pattern because of the dirt roads up the hill on the east side of the road. And then it comes into a more, I would say, commercial, or at least a district that has more businesses in it as far as the remaining neighborhood is concerned. So that, I think, is naturally slowing down traffic. You could put in those planners. There's other techniques that you can use that might be more appropriate to the lateral resistance that you could create. And that's another traffic calming term, actually an engineering term. Parts of Santa Maria are naturally canopied with trees. That's a traffic calming technique. So you have already kind of selected a traffic calmed area as opposed to the other side of the elementary school. So that's all I wanted to add, Deborah.
Great, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. So a couple of thoughts I want to share with you. Part of the money that was appropriated for this sidewalk has already been. There we
Chris,
go.
you're muted.
Yeah,
There we go.
it's restarted.
Okay, great. So some of the money, the 170,000, 50,000 has been spent on doing design and environmental for this. So we really only have $120,000 to work with. But I hate to see $120,000 go towards a sidewalk to nowhere, because when are we ever going to get more sidewalk? And so I'm trying to rack my brain, and I'm hoping to have more brains with me to figure out what is the best way for us to use this money. I've talked enough to SLOCOG and to the county that I think they'd be willing to consider moving this sidewalk to 11th Street and connecting El Moro. See where the kids come off the path, they have one little block, and then 11th Street's pretty heavily traveled street.
That makes a lot more sense.
I'm sorry?
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. And right here on this corner is a bus stop with a bench, and there's no sidewalk there. So I'm hoping we can get some money from public transportation to maybe throw in there to get a little sidewalk. Now, I forgot, and I meant to do this earlier under public comment. I'm going to do it now. This is from Marie Smith, And she said, "Hi, Deborah. Unfortunately, I will not be able to join the Active Transportation Committee. I would like to submit the following for the committee's consideration. When the committee is looking for ways to improve the walkways for pedestrians in our community, please consider using a softer surface than concrete for the walkways. Many people have arthritis and/or back, knee, and hip problems, conditions that require walking on a soft surface. Concrete sidewalks are not desirable when one has these physical problems. Blacktop is better, or use surfaces with a give, like one found on the south side of Santa Isabel Avenue in Los Osos, starting at 7th Street and heading east. Thank you in advance for bringing this physical requirement to the committee." So she sent me this and I wanted to read it because I question whether or not making a concrete sidewalk with curbs and gutters is what we need. What we need is a path here, a walking path with some kind of surface so kids can get off of El Morro, essentially just get these kids off of El Morro, away from the traffic, over to Santa Maria, create a traffic calming on Santa Maria, which accentuates that this is a street where we have a lot of cyclists, a lot of walkers, and vehicular traffic needs to move accordingly. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Positives we're going to get out of this. If we have a successful project, we can use these ideas in other areas of Los Osos. So beyond just a safe routes to school, which obviously this is what we're talking about. But if we're successful in getting traffic calming on Santa Maria, then we should be able to say, okay, now we would like to traffic calm some other streets. And this is where we have to start creating our vision and coming up with our grid and our project list. So a successful project is going to be important. The other thing is it also leads us down here, as Josh pointed out, to the commercial district. And I'm sure you're all aware that right here is where the farmers market is. And we have a lot of people who want to go to farmers market. Now, one of the things that comes up quite a bit in traffic and circulation is parking. If people are riding their bikes or walking, we have less need for parking down here in Baywood. And that's a big thing for active transportation, getting cars off the road and having people use bikes and other forms of transportation. So I think we have that in our favor as well, because it allows for people to come down and take care of their shopping or go to a restaurant or go to the bay. So we have a lot going on with this possibility. The question is, we don't have very much money, and I'm not sure how much we can really accomplish. But the first thing we need to do is put a pause on this. It's already paused. The county's doing nothing. It's been there since 2018. And when I talked to actually the man who's in charge of the project, he said, we have so many projects that this one is not a priority. And I go, well, that's good, because I don't want you to build it. So he didn't really know how to take me on that one, but they're not coming tomorrow to build this sidewalk from 9th Street to 8th Street, but we need to figure out where we want to spend the money. And if you think this is a good place to spend it, and do we need it to be concrete? Can it just be a blacktop? You might want to drive out there, take a look at it, or walk or cycle out there and take a look at the situation and give me some feedback on this. I'd appreciate it.
Well, if I may speak
Please.
on this, what do you guys think of the pedestrian way on Santa Isabel? Because that's basically decomposed granite, or DG, as it's termed in the engineering and construction world. That would be relatively inexpensive to create, and it is also something that could be modified later. Another thing I like to mention is you talked about farmers market. Think about what happens during that 4 hours that farmers market is set up and operating. There's no traffic on that road.
Yeah.
It becomes a pedestrian mall for 4 hours in the afternoon. Think about that also for other parts of Baywood or Los Osos or Cuesta by the Sea. That is another option you have. That's my comment.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Josh. Okay, Dave and Bev, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to go ahead and unmute?
I think we have. It's
Okay.
Bev. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question about drop off and pick up of students at the elementary school. Where do you have in mind that that would happen?
Well, it's already happening. So there's a little space here on Santa Maria between 9th and 10th where the bus pulls in, and that's where the kids are collected and dropped off. And then there's a semicircular drive here in the front of the school where kids are dropped off. The elementary school kids are dropped off. And then here on this side, which is El Moro, is the parking lot for the school.
So are you thinking of a one-way street arrangement on either street or what?
Well, a one-way street is one idea, and it's one that I approached the county with originally, and they kind of shot me down on that one. Mainly because it would involve a lot of studies and, and then you have this where the parents are coming and dropping off and so forth. And so you might disrupt the circulation too much. So I really and here you have sidewalks. So you have places for people to walk and to ride their bikes. And the kids do ride their bikes, these little tiny bikes to school. So I'm not too concerned about right at the school. It's like once you leave 9th Street and travel this way or this way on El Moro being the blue line here on El Moro signifies that it is a bike path. Although it's a class 3, am I correct? Let's see, let me move this.
It's actually, let me look up my map.
Class 3, yeah, that's what I have it listed here. Class 3 bike path. So that means that it is, I always have to look up and see.
Well,
Class 3.
2
Well, the signs
is
say
usually
that
with the lane.
the bikes have the preference.
That class 3 allows the bikes to use the full lane. The cars are supposed to, again, defer to the bikes. It is a class 3, a little different than some of the other class 3s.
Yeah, but do they really do that?
Well,
Not in my experience.
do they
I mean,
really
we're
do
talking
that?
kids here. We're talking little kids.
I
Well, and
understand.
also there's no signage that, or any indication that states that that's what you're supposed to do. So how is anybody supposed to
indication on the
know?
road itself if people understood the signage, but it's only the only reason I understand it is because I looked it up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That
There's
there
a
are bike-
green sign. It says bicycle route. And so if you don't know what that means,
Yeah,
you just figure the bicycle's got to be, they have to shove to the shoulder.
But they actually put like an arrows in the middle of the lane and with a bicycle emblem across that whole lane. Again, you have to know that that's what that's indicating. It doesn't say bikes preferred or something, but I don't dispute what you're saying. One thing I do want people here to understand as you're shifting from this, and I actually don't necessarily support or unsupport either one of these. I want to do what's best for the schools, but I think people need to understand why that first sidewalk was there. And I came across it totally unwittingly when I was looking some review on the community plan. There was a reference to kind of an obscure reference to it and digging into it. So it's a one block sidewalk with a strategy to do 2 block sidewalk. So obviously they're doing one piece, then they were going to do 2 pieces, and you've indicated they keep deferring the one piece. But the intent, according to Slowcog, was to get the kids to that bus stop that's on 7th Street. Whether that's the preferred way or it needs to go to 11th, but I think the group here needs to know it wasn't really intended as a sidewalk to nowhere. I don't even know why it was whoever put it forward to do the 1 block. I mean, it was obviously done some time past, and Locac, as far as I know, wasn't even aware it was happening, to my understanding. But as we're looking to shift, we need to really understand what we're trying to shift from. And you're bringing up a point I wasn't aware. I didn't realize it was Slowcog money. I thought it was grant money that comes from the state. And so I was a bit concerned that we thought we were going to be able to shift it to do something different with that money. But if you're confident it is truly money the county has control of, as long as we can sell them on the right kind of project, that's good.
Oh, no, this is Slowcog money.
Okay, that's good.
This is Safe Routes to School money.
Okay, no, that's
fine. What it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's so again, it's whatever the school really thinks is best. I'm pretty much on board with from that aspect.
So I want to make sure, Bev, that you were able to get your question answered or make your point. I didn't want to cut you off there. So was there more that you wanted to say?
No,
that there was a defined
Thank you very much.
strategy as I understood it, but we were only getting half the strategy. Somebody was going to have to go find the other block's money, I guess, and build the next block. Somebody decided
that's the problem. Where is that money going to come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's all I'm saying is that's what I learned at the time when I learned about that project.
Great, thanks. Okay, Bev, again, I wanted to make sure that you got your point across.
Fine, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, great. So the weird thing about it, Jeff, is that there is a bus stop right here at the corner of the school on 11th Street in El Moro with no sidewalk. And I question, why didn't they put a sidewalk here? This is where the playground is for the school. So I don't know why there's no sidewalk there. And I take Marie's point, which is about the surface, and Josh, DG is certainly an option, would save money by putting in a less expensive surface here. We can get from here to here, and then we might have some money to do some more sort of traffic calming things. And I don't know what the best thing is to do here. That's what Public Works is for. They should know what is the best way to deal with a street to make it, more friendly to pedestrians and things like that. So that's the project. Oh, Josh, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I think if you just talk to some of the traffic engineers that we already have, that they could at least give you some suggestions and not do a full-blown study. And they might help with that. Another thing, I think we should get the stakeholders involved and maybe do a walking tour of that street, walk around the high school, the elementary school, look at connections. And as you know, you get higher rating on the matrix for the bikeways plan if you connect schools to schools, schools to neighborhoods, urban areas to work areas. All of those things are part of the metrics. So you go up the priority list as you can prove that.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, I was surprised. I just recently found out that the high school drops, the bus picks up and drops off kids at Baywood Elementary School. I just found that out a couple of days ago. So I agree with you about stakeholders. I was hoping PTA would show up tonight. They did indicate they would send a rep. Obviously, that didn't happen. I've been in touch with the principal. He's very supportive, but his name is Bernardo Salcido. He does not live in Los Osos. And he actually knows very little about the community. He didn't even know that the El Moro bike path existed when I met with him. So, or that Santa Maria is dirt from 13th Street to 17th Street. He really knew nothing about the community. So, not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that he's not coming with a lot of information. But when I sat down and I explained to him what my concerns were, he was very supportive. So the next step, according to SLOCOG, is we need to write a letter and we need to send it to the stakeholders. And before I go on with that, I want to say to you, Josh, that I did meet with Jan DeMera and Rachel Nakarati of Public Works. They met me at Santa Maria. We walked around the entire school right at the time when kids were being let out from school in the afternoon. They really got an understanding of the situation, but they're only going to spend their time if there's money to do a project. They're not going to waste their time on a thought experiment. So
we have Dave and Bev that have their hand up.
oh, great. Go ahead.
It's Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just going to add that this is, I don't know how far 120,000 would go towards DG paths, but an issue that has come up for at least 5 years at Traffic and Circulation has been that a sidewalk is needed between Los Osos Valley Road and the library along the side of Palisades. And the edge of that the edge of that street is often full of parked cars. The homeless situation, I guess, is sort of resolved there now, but continuing at some point, and sooner rather than later would be good, on the west side of Palisades, there ought to be a way so that the baby buggies don't have to be pushed down the center of the street. So I just want to bring that up in terms of if there's any money left over from 120,000, that would be a good place for a DG path.
Well, I doubt that there's going to be any money. In fact, I suspect there's going to be not enough money. And this money, because it's SLOCOG Safe Routes to School money, I don't know that we can move it to a project that doesn't have anything to do with a school. Now, maybe a library would count. I'm not sure. Jim, did you want to make a comment?
Sure. Just to follow up on Dave's point, I met with Bruce Gibson probably 4 years ago about that very issue of bike path, a sidewalk needed along Los Osos Valley Road between the community center and the elementary school, Monarch Elementary School, or at least to Doris. And he said it was in the works in terms of it's on the master plan. They just didn't have any money for it earmarked at this time, and he was uncertain when that would occur. But according to him, it was in a master plan.
It actually, if I can interject for just a moment, I'm very familiar with this because I brought it to Traffic and Circulation in 2018. And it is on the Los Osos community plan as well as the bicycle, what's it called, Josh? The county bikeways plan. And it is actually proposed as a class 1 bike path, not just a sidewalk.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've been pushing for this for close to 4 years now.
I'm not,
Okay, well,
That would be great.
it's all about funding.
It is. That's
So
where
we
that's
have to
where
be really
everything
smart.
stopped.
Yeah, we have to be really smart, and we're not going to be able to we're going to have to find different pockets of money, and we're going to have to raise our voices. And so what I would like, because this sort of takes me to, other possible projects. I would like for each one of you to send me an email or a document or something that tells me what your top priorities would be for a project. Let's compile a list. Let's make a plan so that we can prioritize what our needs are, so that we can go to the bicycle advisory committee and say, this is what's important to us. We can go to the county, say, this is what's important to us, and we can help try to find some funding. Okay, we have Josh, go ahead.
I just, when you're finished there, I was just going to add, make sure with that priority list, you put reasons why you would like it prioritized. In other words, you can say something, this connects a shopping area to a neighborhood, or this connects a school to a library. Those types of things really help us justify it and raise its priority level in our matrix.
Yeah, would you talk about the matrix, Josh, so people understand how projects are evaluated?
Well, we have, well, unfortunately, engineers really love charts, but this does help rank. We call it a ranking, and it sets the priorities of projects. So it raises the need for funding, especially when we go to federal funding or state funding. So you'll probably, well, if you go into the bikeways plan, the most recent one, you'll see what our matrix is. And like I've basically been saying, different reasons are ranked differently. So in other words, connecting a school to a neighborhood has a very high ranking, whereas visual aesthetics of a route gets a ranking, but it's a lower level ranking than, say, that connector ranking. And while I use that word connector, that is one of the primary reasons the grand jury said our system of bikeways was not working. And yes, the grand jury reviewed our bikeways plan. And one of the major critiques of that review was the fact it lacks connectivity. So if you can show that this connects, which I think you're pointing out quite well, Deborah, that there's a connector here. In other words, we have sidewalks on certain roads, but it's not complete. That's a very high ranking in our matrix.
Interesting.
That's my.
Dave and Bev, either one of you.
Hi, it's Dave again. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that I should have mentioned Meg and her efforts with the bikeway along Los Valley Road too, because she's definitely been there at Traffic and Circulation, lobbying for that for years. But I just wanted to add that, or to wonder, maybe Meg or Josh can tell us, since they've been connected or working with the bicycle committee, is there anybody else in the county that's working on pedestrian pathways who might give us advice? I have no idea. I mean, maybe this is the very first group that's ever worked on it, but I don't know. I'm just asking.
Good question. I have no idea.
If you would like me to speak, Deborah.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, within the county, and we're part of the county, we have all of those resources. There are private companies that specialize in traffic calming and doing traffic circulation. Those could be hired to do a study, a review. But I think you can tap into the Bicycle Advisory Committee for the county to get quite a bit of of advice. I mean, it's very rich in knowledgeable people that can advise at least on a non-engineering level. And we do have traffic engineers that can tell us yay or nay on something we would like, such as a stop sign or a signal or something like that. And they can tell us why that may not be a good idea for safety reasons or finances, etc. But I think we're a pretty good resource here at the BAC, if not me, other members.
Great. The next meeting for the BAC will be in February. And they're going to be discussing projects. Am I right, Josh? They're going to be talking about Los Osos at that February meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, because of your efforts, it is now on the agenda. However, public comment is at the beginning of the meeting, and anyone can speak just like this meeting at that moment and request any option that is not on the agenda. Meg has done this several times. She's been through this process. So we'll be discussing it, but also if there's things like, hey, we need a sidewalk to get us to the library. Very valid question. So yeah, raise that up at our meetings, attend our meetings all the time. More Lososians get involved, the more attention our community will get out of, this very large county. And I had a traffic engineer once mentioned to me, out of my frustration in the very glacial progress we were going through. And we're a county, we get county funding, but we're the size of the state of Connecticut as far as the county is concerned. So we're a large county, but we don't have state funding. We have county funding.
Well, there may be state funding coming. Active transportation is part of the infrastructure bill that's been passed, but that kind of funding, we compete with Los Angeles and San Diego and every other, urban area. So we have to really have our ducks in a row here and really laser focus on what our priorities are, so that we can get the funding that we need. So does that sound, does it make sense for you to provide input to me through via an email where you could just write down, we need a sidewalk from Los Osos Valley Road to the library. We need a better bicycle path on, Ramona or wherever.
Deb, we have Jeff Krebs up.
Oh, yes, Jeff, I see your hand now. Jeff.
Yeah, a couple thoughts there. I mean, that's what we need, but I think we got to be probably a little more analytical about it. There may be favorite streets that somebody's aware of, but we do have, the county has traffic data, and they also know where there are or aren't viable paths, and they know where the bike lanes are. And this is I think a big well, the first thing, when I was reviewing the community plan and some of the associated documents, when I came across the bicycle plan, that was frankly the best dang document I saw that was clear and articulate in what they were doing. Whether I agreed with what they were doing or not, I at least fully understood it. Some of the other stuff was so abstract, it was very difficult. The one thing that I don't think the bicycle metrics work for us right now has to do with residential urban areas, except for perhaps schools. And, it has its own special metric. And that's why I think I brought up in the last meeting that I wanted to hopefully have them relook at that, because our residential areas, just as you point out, seniors aren't going to want to get out competing with traffic. Well, now they'll go and they'll look at the metrics, say, well, you really don't have enough seniors out right now, which is part of the thing. How many bicycle riders do you have? Well, we don't have any because they don't want to get out on the road. And I think if we were able to identify those segments of roads that have the three competing things, perhaps with some metric of traffic, which we should be able to get because they've got a lot of data points. I mean, if you see a road that has 800 cars a day and it's also a bike, lane 3 or whatever it is, group 3 bike lane. Oh, and by the way, it's also pedestrian, but even the pedestrian can't walk off the road because there's impediments. Seems like that would somehow raise to a really high, we need something multimodal, whether it's to even divert the pedestrian traffic to go a different way safely. We don't have those. And until we can articulate that in a list, I think we're going to have a hard time. I mean, I've got a couple pet projects and I'm sure we'll be able to put a few in, but I think we probably need to be a little more holistic because I'm concerned that the bicycle plan is we're going to look at Los Osos stuff and I know they need to get back to the Board of Supervisors for their next approval, which then means you can't go change it very easily for another 5 years. The county has committed to protecting quality of life and we've got growth issues going. So it means we're going to have more cars or vehicles going on. They've committed to lowering greenhouse gas, get people out of car. So we got all these abstract commitments, but I don't see a tangible result because that particular metric says, well, wait a minute, if you don't have many bicycle riders, why should we be putting a bike path here? I mean, I'm being facetious about it, but that's kind of the conundrum we're in right now is how do you get it jump started so that we can get something like that prioritized and be able to get people out of cars or for health or that type of thing. So that's
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
It's like a chicken and an egg thing. So you want people to be out on the road, but if you don't provide a safe road for them to ride on, they're not going to go on the road, but you want them to be on the road. So it's really up to us to, come up with this. And I agree with you. Let's be analytical about it. I'm looking here at the bicycle plan. I highlighted some things here. There's only one proposed, no, there's more than one, but there's as a proposed bike path. This is on the current bicycle plan, which is actually out of date. Josh, is there a more current one than this 2015, 2016?
Well, we update this at either a 5-year or 3-year window or more if there is some change in a funding mechanism. Now, what might inspire another update could be this trend towards from the bicycle committees to a active transportation committee, which would be more inclusive of all the other types of modalities. I would once again point towards traffic calming as probably your biggest bang for the buck, and also probably the quickest way to meet some of, I believe, Jeff's comments about this. I would also say to Jeff, if it's possible to look up your projects of concern or your pet projects, look at the matrix and see if there's anything in the matrix along that long list that you can insert something that you see in that. There must be a reason why you think it's a higher priority, and maybe you might be overlooking at one of our matrix that it falls under, such as maybe it's allowing for easier transportation for seniors. Well, maybe there's a connection there between a senior neighborhood and a shopping area or a library. So there are ways to manipulate our matrix that you may not understand or appreciate yet. But
Yeah, that's,
we do
I
update.
know our community had a lot of bike projects, and back prior to 2015, that, and because we as a transportation committee kept that whole list on the county kept it on their RIF or RIP or whatever table we were looking at as a supplement, and they kept that full complement. We kept reviewing and prioritizing that thing, even though it didn't compete, it conflicted with your table. Somewhere you pared a lot of the projects that we wanted down. And I'll freely admit, when I walked some of the projects, I said, I don't see how in the world we would have ever done that, but they were on the list. But part of it is just connecting Baywood up into the LOVR commercial area where we were looking to go up, let's say, Pismo Street, where it's a dirt path right now. All of that got axed. Now, perhaps that was okay, but it's no longer, or is not, a safe way. The other issue we really do have, and I think it's another administrative issue with the county, most of what we need are multi-use. And bikeways deals with bikeways, and parks deals with paths, and the two don't meet. As best I can say, understand. Now, you did say, well, bring us a sidewalk project. I don't know that you deal with that, but maybe you do, and I might be misunderstanding, but I just thought you dealt strictly with bike stuff, with bike standards.
Yes, we do, Jeff. At this time, we're a bicycle-centric committee. However, we're making it's this point that Deborah's actually taking us in another direction now with this more inclusive modal concept of transportation. At one point, we separated bike paths, class 1 systems, from bike lanes or class 2 improvements into two different realms. The paths were given to Parks and Rec. We kept in Public Works the bike lanes, and of course, class 3s. So you have 3 levels here. Class 3 pretty much are all the roads in our community, basically. Class 2 is a bike lane, has to be 4 feet wide to meet Caltrans standards. The fog line separating a bike lane from the automobile travel lane is 6 inches as opposed to 3. Plus it has the medallions and signage that illustrate that it's a bike lane. There are to be no permanent parking of automobiles on those lanes. A class 3 is basically a shared road system. That's basically the streamlined definition of those 3 categories, if that helps.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and Jeff, we need the multi-shared use paths. That's really the reality. I agree with you on that. Okay, Jim, who had their hand up first, Meg or Jim?
I think Jim did.
I
Okay,
did. I
Jim, go
just
ahead.
wanted to follow up on Jeff's point, which is what you just did as well, Deborah, and that is that if you look at Los Osos Valley Road, you have seniors walking along that road. You have a senior in a wheelchair. You have bicycles. You have cars, and you have electric bikes as well. So that is the primary route for people to get in and out of Los Osos. And when you don't have sidewalks, you don't have walking paths, everybody has to walk on the road and walk around parked cars at times. And so to be analytical, as Jeff said, about our priorities, Los Osos Valley Road is a high traveled path by all of these different groups, if you will, or stakeholders. And that's a dangerous route that needs to be addressed.
So I pulled up and now I'm screen sharing this methodology. This is in the bicycle plan. Just so you get some idea. This is the matrix, right, Josh? Is this, maybe it's not the matrix, but anyway. This is what they
No,
used.
That is the matrix. I'm familiar with it myself.
Okay, great. So, I mean, you can, if you go to the county and look up the Bicycle Advisory Committee, you'll find that there is a link to this lengthy document. It's over 100 pages long, and it has a list of all the projects. And but it's outdated. It's 2015, but it's being updated. And because I've been attending the meetings, or the last couple meetings, I brought up about Los Osos. And so now they put us on the agenda for February. So let's have something to talk about when we get there. Meg, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify when I said that there was a class 1 bike path in the Los Osos community plan as well as the county bikeways plan. I misspoke. It's called a multi-use path. So at first I was calling it a bike path, and then the verbiage changed, and I think it's listed now as a multi-use path.
And that's what it should be.
And that's what it should be. Exactly.
That's what it should be.
And obviously I agree completely with Jim that in my mind, that is the busiest road in Los Osos, the most traveled, and the most, the biggest connector between school, library, community center, skate park, grocery store, all of the services that are on Los Osos Valley Road.
Yes. In fact, technology, it's so wonderful.
One other thing I wanted to ask Josh, I think it was you who said that there's only county funding, but isn't there, doesn't Caltrans do the grant funding? And that's California, right? Or is that through the county as well? Uh-oh, did we lose Josh?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, my
I think
understanding
he's still
is,
there.
okay. My understanding is that there is funding through the state, through
Yeah,
Caltrans.
this is Jeff. And again, grant funding, I'm really baffled by how all this works. But one of the things I was not appalled, but I was so surprised. There was a little announcement, and it doesn't have to do with bikeways, but it has to do with the state, and Governor Newsom just signed something that was like $500 million gone out to community and park and rec type stuff. And it listed out all the projects. I didn't see one in San Luis Obispo County. It's like, who's doing this stuff? I mean, we keep talking about we need pocket parks or this or that, or
well, you have to apply for it.
Well, I know, but that means somebody in the county should be. I mean, if the county and this is part of, I don't understand this whole process, but if the county knows where things, people in the county want things, shouldn't somebody be in charge of grant looking? I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're right. Jeff, they got $500,000 to do a skate park in Napomo. And I think that's where some of that money went.
Oh, they did get something. Okay. I didn't see that. Well, I was scanning down. I go, golly, look at all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything for San Luis Obispo County, but my fault. But anyway.
And it emphasizes the fact that you have to, I mean, they've wanted to build that skate park for a long time. And so you have to have a project. It has to be, not just, in somebody's mind. It has to be something that's really concrete, and then you have to go after it. And I'm
But
certainly
who
willing
goes,
to do
who
that.
goes after it, I guess?
I am
And,
too.
all of our park and rec projects have been there since 2009, and we haven't moved on. I mean, we're getting drifting here, but it's trying to understand who's responsible to be looking for those grants and writing the grants. I know Mike Britton tried to write one for the ATP for the county, and I think Josh indicated he wasn't successful. I mean, he didn't get the money to do it, but I'm baffled by how this grant money actually.
Well, my
People go
understanding is that as individuals, we can't do it, but if it's an organization.
Okay,
And
so-
if Locac is behind this, then I believe that Locac could apply for the grant. And
maybe that's a role of Slowcog. Again, I don't fully appreciate the whole government works, but maybe that is a Slowcog thing, and they do that kind of thing. But anyway, I've gotten us off track here.
Well, yes and no. I agree. I had a long conversation with Sean Cooper, who's head of Parks and Rec. Great guy. And there's a lot of, we can create some synergy there with that department. But again, we have to have, like, for instance, we need a bike path that goes to Montana de Oro on Petro Road. And that's really going to be more to the Parks and Recs thing, because that's a state park. So, I don't know. We have to connect the dots, and that's what Locac is going to do. That's why I started this committee, and that's what I'm going to put on the agenda for Locac, to start connecting the dots, because nobody's going to do it for us.
Really
I just need the input.
committee.
I need input from all of you who know so much more than I do about where to create our priorities, so we can go in and we can, and not get, too distracted. We have to be really clear about what we want. Meg, did you have something more you wanted to say?
no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just would add at the beginning of the meeting, Deborah, you mentioned that you wanted to see us do two things. One was safe routes to school, and the other one was the infrastructure that we wanted to advocate for. And I think, to your last point, we need to come up with a list of priorities that we want to advocate for in terms of infrastructure to be created for safe bicycling routes, not only for cyclists, but also for those that are using electric bikes as a transportation means.
So I would ask that you take a look at the document. I'm gonna scroll up here now. I hope this doesn't disturb you that I'm doing this. I'm gonna go to the cover page so you can take a look at it. Some of you have already seen this. There we go. 2015-16 County Bikeways Plan. Okay. It's got a lot of information in it. I would ask that you give me your top 2 projects for Los Osos. And as Josh said, why? Why are they important? Look at the ranking matrix. How would it rate on those plans? Because the higher the number, the more of a priority it will be. So I found it quite interesting that millions of dollars went into funding the Bob Jones Trail, which is a great thing. However, it connects San Luis Obispo to Avila, which is a tiny town with very few people. When I asked the county, why did you fund that project? They said, oh, it's for commuters, so they can commute to work. And I thought, how many people who live in Avila are commuting to San Luis Obispo? It's really, in my mind, more of a recreational trail, but they use that to get the ranking up. So taking nothing away from that fabulous trail, I'm just saying we have a great park here. People want to go there. We have over 16,000 people who live here. We have a good story to tell. We just need to tell it. In
May
my
I
opinion.
interject, Deborah?
Sure.
Is it possible, could you display the matrix that we have in our bikeways plan so people can look at them right now, and maybe we can get a little feedback and I can comment on some of them if you would like.
Yeah.
Um,
Does it bother you when I scroll like this?
yeah. And then people will be a little more familiar with this, but just to let people know, this is on the county's website.
Yeah.
You can look this up at a later time.
There's a lot of information on here. Here's pictures. I wanted to show you this. So when they talk about class 1 bikeway or shared use plan, they're using El Morro as their example. We
Yes.
want more things like that.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of a class 1 bike path.
Mhm.
It's a class 1 facility.
And I'm going to go somewhere in here. It tells where the money came from for that path. I don't remember where, but it's such a big document. It's hard to keep track of all of it. I'm going to go back here. Here's some more paths, bike lanes. It's on page 41, so I have a ways to go here, but I'm almost there. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is a number of cyclists, I guess. Collisions, education outreach.
Deborah, while you're looking, Dave and Bev have their hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that the Locac Tree and Landscape Committee that we've attended has been working for a year to try to get county parks or somebody to do maintenance on the El Morro bike path, and they haven't been able to get it done. So that's, through fire season and so forth, where it's overgrown with felt grass, that wasn't something the county could do. So well, the part that looks like that picture, I don't know where that is. Anyway, just want to mention that.
It must have been from a long time ago.
I suppose so.
It's not a current picture, I can tell you that. So this is the ranking methodology. Am I right about that?
Yes, you are.
So here are the points. 100 points if you're connecting. If you're a connecting corridor. Or if you close a gap. If it's a school route. 100 points if you are in close proximity. And we certainly qualify for that there at the Baywood. Connecting to a commuter route. And so let me ask you, Josh, if you connect a pathway to a bus stop, does that count?
I would say, I would interpret that as, there's several things where it could rank. It could become, here I am using my pointer here, but let's go over to, the commute route. Now, look at what you get for that amount. If it's, I would argue that a bus would fit many reasons for travel. It is a method of commuting. It's a method of gaining to recreational areas. It's a method for children or adults to get to a school. So if there's a bus connection, and this goes back to the term intermodal, because you get a higher ranking if you make connectivity or close a gap, that ranks it higher. So what we're trying to do is complete these systems. So if you look at like recreational routes, that gets a lower priority, lower ranking in our numbers. And you see 1 to or 0 to 100, we can rank that route in that range. So
Does anybody know if the public transportation buses have bike racks on them?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes, they do. That's a requirement of their contractors, provide bike racks on all regional bus systems.
Great. Okay. Well, here's the plan. I'm going to compose a letter. I've already started a rough draft of it to the county and to Locac, asking them to put a pause on this project and consider rescoping the project, where we would actually consider doing some sort of pavement. I'm going to pull up the map again here. Give me just a moment. Hold on. See if I can do this a little faster. Doing some sort of walking path on 11th Street, getting over to Santa Maria, and then do some additional calming, traffic calming on that street, whether it's local traffic only or here we go. The little planters in the middle and Josh had a great idea. We could have the elementary school kids paint them, decorate them. So here we are. So do some sort of DG or blacktop here, connect over here, do some sort of their sidewalk up to this corner, then do something along here to make the traffic pretty calm so that you can get to the farmer's market, get downtown, get to school, and it provides that for the high schoolers, it provides it for the middle schoolers, as well as the elementary school. I mean, I just think it's a killer project that has a lot going for it, and we can sell it.
It sounds like a great idea. I mean, from what you're saying on the surface, when you speak to traffic calming to the county, you need to probably be clear. Are you talking reducing volume, or are you reducing speed?
Speed.
And both of them are, well, yeah, you're okay. You're thinking you're going to be reducing speed.
Well, because there's
challenge.
not a lot of traffic on this street already. So what we want to do is really keep the speed down so that people can walk and ride on the road, because there is no shoulder. There's no place for them to go other than in the street.
Right. I mean, from the experience we had on 4th Street, the only traffic calming that was a practical matter, because we went through a variety of things, was going to be speed humps. And that, frankly, Locac was the one that shot that down. So it's a different Locac now, but we went through a big gyration trying to get to reduce the speed, and we did get an alternative, but part of it also is traffic volume. And when you're feeding people down to the market there, and again, I'm not that super familiar with it, but I'm just thinking out loud here. We do have a beer pub down there. So people they're out of the area coming down to the beer pub. Maybe they ride their bikes. Maybe that'd be a good thing. So
yeah. Josh, you wanted to say?
Well, once again, I want to reinforce the fact that there are other tools in our toolbox for traffic calming. All current traffic engineers coming out of Cal Poly, who we hire, and then they go on to bigger and better things, it seems. We have a lot of turnover. All of them are familiar with traffic calming. They understand what traffic calming is. In fact, some of them have done their senior project or graduate work in that field, doing more studies on what works and what doesn't work. We have a lot of tools. What was really amazing to me as a long-term committee member of the BAC since 1992 is that when the 4th Street traffic calming project was being created, no one from county engineering or public works, no one from the community, no one from Locac contacted the BAC. So we didn't know what you guys were doing on 4th Street. We were completely out of the loop. And this is a case where the county's left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. So when you finally knew we existed, and once we finally knew you were doing it, we worked together. So once again, I think this is great that Deborah's basically collecting all these people and basically brokering communication. I think that's great. So once again, to go back to my original thought, there are many tools in our toolbox for traffic calming. So don't just think of speed bumps. And in fact, every fire chief hates speed bumps because of what it does to their engines. The modern term now is called a speed ramp, and you're seeing that on Santa Ynez. It's much easier on fire engines and other emergency vehicles, and it has other effects, such as raising children up into a higher view path of the drivers. It also is easier to delineate it as you approach it. There's just so many more reasons to use a traffic ramp or another system than the very old 1950s technology of a speed bump. So I just wanted to add that.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because right here at 7th Street, we know 7th Street is a major, 7th Street seems to be a street where there's a lot of traffic. That sort of a speed traffic ramp would be good here on Santa Maria and 7th Street. And that would create that, again, that calming on Santa Maria where you're not going to go real fast there. I mean, we need to get the engineers involved. Josh, you're spot on. We have a lot of tools. Matt Leal, who's the new guy at the county, who's going to be handling this. He's the one who brought to my attention this local traffic designation where they put up signs and they say only local traffic can be on this road. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that people won't go ahead and use it, but it creates this image of you're not supposed to be on this road unless you live on this street if you're a car. And they put up a bunch of signs and put cones in the middle of the street kind of thing. So all of these visual reminders create that calming effect. So we're going to keep all our options open here and see how far we can stretch this money. I will be writing up this letter. I will send it out to all of you to review for your comment. It needs to be into SLOCOG. It needs to get into the county before the end of the year. So we have a timeline. So you can expect me to send this out to you next week. I need to get it to Locac. Locac needs to vote on it and approve it because it will go out under their name. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions?
I think that's a good plan.
Okay, we're rocking and rolling. And we're gonna come up with some projects. Next month, we'll meet and we'll talk about some projects that we're gonna take to the BAC in February. We're on the agenda. Let's make it count.
And Deborah, we have Josh his hand
Oh,
is up.
Josh, yes. Go ahead, Josh.
Josh, you're
all I-
muted.
all-
Oh,
oh, go ahead, Meg, if you wish.
no. Yeah, I was just saying you were muted. We couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Uh, all I was going to say is that when you come, think about maybe giving our engineers a homework assignment if you see one. That is not outside the scope. You are taxpayers. You deserve to, get some attention from our engineers. They are overwhelmed. They are overworked. There's not enough of them. But think about maybe proposing some homework for them. Maybe they can come back, if there's enough voices spoken, with some kind of option on all of these areas that we've mentioned tonight.
Wonderful, great, Josh. Thank you so much. All of you have been such a big help, and I'm so excited that we're getting going on this. I think we're gonna make something happen here, and so you can expect today is Thursday. I have a rough draft on this letter already. I'll send it out to you guys tomorrow. You can give me some comment. I'll get it to Locac by next week so that they can review it and we can vote on it, and then we can get it sent in. Any other questions? Comments? All right.
Thank you for putting this together, Deborah. I really
You're welcome,
appreciate
Meg.
it.
Thanks for participating.
Absolutely.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.